What's up, Nova Nation? Welcome to Cats on the Court. I'm Victoria Newsom, and I'm here with David Shapansky and Stephen Kane, and we're going to get into everything women's hoops, specifically in Villanova land. So let's get right into it. I know Villanova ranks 6th in the preseason poll, which is one of the lowest under head coach Denise Dillon, who has a record of impressive success on this team, and just her tenure has been incredible. What is the main focus as we go into this season, especially with the new roster coming from the transfers and establishing a Villanova statement?
Well, Villanova, great question, Victoria. Villanova, I mean, they have a lot of work to do this season, right? And predicted to finish 6th, as you said, in the Big East poll, and one of the lowest under Coach Dillon. But Villanova, I mean, they have a big issue of trying to find offense this year. I think is really going to be their main story. And this was even a problem at the end of last year. I mean, Lucy Olson was so good, right? One of the leading scorers in college basketball. Unfortunately, she transferred to Iowa, so no longer a Wildcat. But really, you're going to have other players step up. And I liked how you brought up the transfer portal. Brona Power-Cassidy, I think, is one of the biggest stars that Villanova can have this season. Transfer from Holy Cross, has a lot of experience, has played 3 or 4 years, averaged on 13, 14 points per game, double digits for most of her college career, and also has some size too. And in addition to the offense, I think another question is, how does Villanova rebound, right? The loss of Christina Dulce is huge. I mean, it is astronomical. One of the best rebounders in college basketball. I think she was the best rebounder in the Big East. More than 9 rebounds per game last season. So,
Miss you, Chris.
So Villanova has a lot of work to do in the offensive and rebounding category. And, Denise Dillon is a great coach, but let's face it, there's a lot of work they have to do. And I'm excited to see how the transfers fit in. I think they made some good moves.
Yeah, and then for me, I completely agree with you said, David. It does make a lot of sense that this Villanova team may be a little bit underrated, a little bit slept on in the Big East preseason poll because of the loss of Lucy Olson, Christina Dulce, and really just the two-man game that they ran. I mean, they were so unstoppable, especially on that pick and roll. But in terms of a player to look out for, I'll go with one of the returning Wildcats, Maddie Weber. She really broke onto the scene as a freshman, came off the bench as the 6th, 7th man, but then eventually earned time in the starting lineup, got a lot of Big East Freshman of the Week honors, was on the All Big East freshman team. She was really dominant, not just in terms of scoring the basketball, but also getting rebounds on both sides of the ball. You mentioned that. I mean, the offensive rebounding wasn't the best outside of Christina Dulce, but Maddie Weber was also pretty solid at offensive rebounding as well, and she was also a really good defender, could really defend 1 through 5. I think she takes a big sophomore leap this year.
Absolutely. And another player that has really stood up to you, do you have anyone in mind that comes to the head when you're thinking women's basketball is going to pop off this season? Who do you have leading the charge?
Well, I'm going to steal Steve's answer if I can, just for a little bit here. Yeah. I mean, talking about Maddie Weber, I mean, Steve, I think you hit every big point that you could there. And, she started off the year so good last year. I mean, you look at a lot of her games, 10 points, 13 points. I think she had a game where she had more than 25 points or so.
Yeah, against Providence.
Yes, and her and Lucy Olson really carrying the team. And then at the end of the year, you kind of look, her numbers really dropped off, right around 5-6 points per game, which was still something. But Villanova, they needed more offense, especially they were, in the latter part of the season trying to get into March Madness. You just kind of look, I think you kind of owe that to the fact that it was her first season in college basketball, right? And just playing in such a good conference in the Big East. I think that tough schedule really kind of added up. So I agree with Steve. I'm really excited to see how she takes that big step forward here in her sophomore season.
I know I caught up with her last season, and she was talking about how she was hard on herself, but she knows that she's just a freshman. I'm so excited to watch her break out this season and just watch her grow as a player and as a person, and her ball skills. I mean, we only are seeing her getting better and hitting those threes, so we'll see it when we get there.
Yeah, and I think it's huge too because, really now she has an opportunity to step up and be that star, right? Without Lucy Olson, Maddie Segrist, and it's hard to get on their level, of course, some of the best college basketball players, especially in Villanova, that we've ever seen. But she really has the opportunity to make herself the star of this Villanova basketball team.
Absolutely. Any predictions you have for them?
I agree with Steve too. I think they're a little bit slept on, to be honest, in the Big East. I think this team has proven, even though they have some transfers coming in, right? Coach Dillon is a great coach. They have a lot of experience, right, with Power Cassidy coming over as well with experience in college basketball. So I think maybe they could crack the top 5 in the Big East, but I think it would also be an accomplishment if they can find their way back into the WBIT this year. I know that I'm sure they got a lot of experience and leadership kind of learning how to step up when games maybe matter a little bit most in a tournament. So I think that will help this season, but just try to get back into the WBIT, which was the first season that occurred last year, and just try to make a run in the Big East. Top 5, I think, would be a big accomplishment, especially if they can kind of get closer to Creighton and UConn, the 2 powerhouses.
And we're so excited to see what Denise Dillon and her Lady Cats do this season. Thank you so much for joining us. I mean, we're excited for Cats on the Court. I mean, this was our first episode. We have a whole season to go. And feel free to follow us on WXVU, tune in to game days, and also VTV, especially VTV Sports. And we'll see you next time.